Welcome everyone to the April 19th, 2023 Plastow Planning Board. And with that, we will commence a roll call.
Alberti.
Here.
Karen Robinson, excused.
She's excused, yep.
Lauren Millette.
Here.
Chuck Fowler.
Here.
Richard Anthony.
Here.
Tim Moore.
Here.
Bill Coy.
Here.
Daryl is not here. Jay
Well-
Rowden.
Here.
Or Jay, right?
It should be Jay DeRoche now instead of Daryl.
That should change. All right.
Yep, that should change.
Right.
He's the alternate now, and Jay's at his son has a concert tonight.
Okay. Inventory duty.
Here.
What's that?
Great. With Karen's absence, is it appropriate right now to assign an alternate as a voting member? Or at the start of the application?
You can do it now so they can vote on the minutes and any other.
There we go. Excellent. I guess we'll just go with alternate seniority, right? We'll start with Richard and then we can alternate from here on out.
Sounds great.
Stepping up to the bigs. All right. With that, we will appoint Richard Anthony as a voting member for this evening in Karen's absence. All right. Any questions on the minutes? Some pain in the butt guy has noticed a couple typos.
It didn't show up in the word check.
Yeah. Well, I think because camber is technically a word. I don't really, off the top of my head.
It is a word.
I don't recall exactly what and so is hat, right? So the last sentence under above old business C says Fowler volunteered. On the last sentence says there was discussion about extending the railroad line and hat it was more likely. So that's that. Right? Got it? Thank you. And then first sentence under new business, moving forward with the Greater Salem Camber as chamber. Might as well make the change. Any other questions in the minutes, changes?
No questions, but after you take the vote, I wanted to make a correction for what's in the minutes was what I said, but what I said was incorrect, so I want to make that correction.
Okay. All right, so we'll vote on the minutes and then we'll get a informative correction for the record after this. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Chuck makes a motion to accept the minutes from April 5th, 2023. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I second it.
Richard seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. And yeah, Tim, you want?
Yeah, we had a discussion about whether the ex officio member could chair the planning board. It turns out that is allowed because it's only a temporary situation. So it's just for that one meeting or maybe two. It would be allowed
Okay.
to chair the meeting.
So in theory,
I thought he could not, but
okay.
that was
No,
incorrect.
the ex officio can't serve as chair. It's in state law.
No, I think they were talking about if he was the vice chair and say for one meeting.
Oh
he had
yes,
to
then he
chair.
can fill in as for chairing
That's
the
what you
meeting.
meant, Kim, right?
He just can't be the chair.
Yeah.
He can fill in temporarily to chair a single meeting. Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So just, yeah, so that's a good thing to know, right, for future. So in theory, if Bill Coy, our ex officio, was the vice chair, which he could be, and then I was absent, he could, quote unquote, be the temporary chair
Yes.
that evening.
Yep.
And chair that meeting.
Yep.
Just can't be the appointed chair or
Correct.
voted in chair.
Correct.
Got it. Good to know. All right. With that, any other comments or questions to this point? All right, with that, we will open a public hearing, PB 23-03, the completeness of an application from Frank Muraco that proposes a change of use from retail to office/transportation business use. The property is located at 27 Garden Road, tax map 26, lot 53 in the C1 zoning district. The property owner of record is Randonia LLC. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct the public hearing. All right, and with that, we'll start by welcoming representative to the chair and introduce yourself clearly for Charlene,
Certainly.
and we'd love to hear about the application.
My name is Dan Corvus, the civil engineer that put the project together. Actually, all we did was an existing conditions plan for the most part. What we're here for is the change of use for the site. Right now, presently it was approved for retail, and they want to switch it over to office. Also, office and the transportation, the newly passed zoning bylaw for the minor transportation, which allows it in this district. So they don't need a variance to do that. And basically what it is small buses to transport small number of people. I think the biggest one, I think the regulations call for the maximum size to be 25 people, and that's what it is. They're going to have 2 at that size and 2 smaller ones. So, and basically they're just being parked there. But the
I'm sorry, so there's 4 transportation vehicles?
right.
2 like party buses kind of things, or
From what I
just say that
understand,
2
2
mid-sized
buses that can handle up to 25 people, and the other 2 are smaller, maybe 12, 15 people. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but I know it's smaller than the 25. And the regulation calls out for the new zoning allows up to 4 buses or transportation vehicles to be part of it. So the site, like he mentioned, is at 27 Garden Road. Garden Road, the site that's shaded in gray is the parking. And the white in between the 2 parking near the front and back parking is the building. To the left of the building, there's another building on the abutting lot. That's the Firestone building. And across at the lower portion of the property, there's a long, narrow building that's, I think it's Rockingham Trading Post. It has the coin, Village coin in there. Yeah, I think it's for sale. I went by it today and they had a sign out on it. But that gives you an idea of where it is. What we're doing, well, first of all, the site is in the Commercial 1 zoning district. The total area of the site, this was condominiumized a while back, I think in 2000, maybe 2015. Then, as you can see, there's a dark dash line that runs through the middle of it, going from the bottom of the page up. The left side of it is what we're working on. That is the retail. On the east, the right side of it, it's residential. I think there are four units in there, in that building.
So is this the old pond? Is this the pond building?
Pawn shop? Yeah.
Are there 2 businesses operating out of there currently?
Yes.
And on this map, so I'm trying to orient myself appropriately. So there's Garden Road. Where's the exact? Which one's the structure?
Actually, if
That doesn't look.
if you on the left-hand side of the lot, there's a gray area in the front and a gray area in the back, and there's a white area in between. That white area is where the building is,
Oh, I see.
and the gray area is just showing the existing pavement that's out there now. By the way, this is an existing conditions plan that you're looking at right now. And it's, other than, there are a few minor, originally there was a site plan done on this in 2007 where they showed the drive coming in, going all the way to the back parking, and it was 20 feet wide. I assume that was the reason it was 20 feet wide is because of fire access. But they never connected it. Right now, it's just gravel that's in between the pavement where it's broken. And what you'll see in the next plan that comes up, the proposed plan, what is going to happen in there.
Are you saying it's gravel on the right side of the building?
Yeah, it's
It's paved,
Yeah.
not all the way through.
but it looks like it is. It looks like it looks like it's been newly paved.
It was, but they didn't go all the way, they didn't connect the back foot to the front. And I think there's some pictures in here.
It's on
that
the
might
side.
show
I
it.
mean, it's
The
paved
side.
continuously on the side. I mean, you could go into the back of the building if you would have.
Right. If you look at that plan that's up there, as you come in off Garden Road, there's a gray area of the drive coming in, and then it's white. When you get so far in, then it goes on the other side of the building, it's gray again. The gray is the pavement. So what's in between there wasn't paved. But it was shown on the previous site plan as being paved.
It's paved on the right side of the building.
I think so. I
It's
mean, I took a
newly
look.
paved.
I just took a look at it before I came here. So
When you-
where on the, where are you saying, Laura? Kind of
Right over there.
in that gap to the right of the
That
building?
white, where it's
Right
white
next
So
to
the
there.
gray connects to the gray?
That's newly paved.
Yeah, it's new. They were paving it today.
Oh, well,
They're
that's-
landscaping it today and paving it today.
that I didn't know. When we went out and did I think we did the as-built plan out here. I think it was in February or late February or something. That wasn't paved at that time. And
Yeah, I will say the aerial photo that I looked at, that it would be a little bit dated, did not show it paved all the way back.
Is
Yeah.
that a code enforcement issue that they're paving something that wasn't approved for paving?
If they were previously approved to do it, they still should have pulled a building permit.
If
But-
this plan doesn't show it, wouldn't it indicate that it
Well,
wasn't?
no, so they were approved to be able to have the paved area to the back, and it makes a lot of sense for a fire lane. But he's showing what were the existing conditions as of a few months ago.
Okay.
So I think the existing conditions plan, based on the date that is presented, is accurate. But if it in the past few days has been paved, they may or may not have pulled a permit that they needed to actually pave it, but it was approved to be able to be paved because of a previous site
Are we
plan
sure
approval.
about that? Yeah, we don't have the previous approval, do we?
I believe
yeah.
Dee put this in your packet just to actually indicate sort of the grassy area that she mentioned in the staff report.
Oh, I see.
It's got some yellow highlighting on it.
See area, okay.
So that really is the area that was approved to be paved
That was approved on the prior?
in the prior approval. They just never did it.
which doesn't make sense.
Why is the plan say grassy area, though?
There's a little strip of area that was between the pavement and the building, and they were calling that the grassy area.
I mean, to be able to have it be a fire lane to be open makes sense.
But can we assume that what was approved as the grassed area is now paved over? Which would indicate that,
That's
There's no grassed area. It's the building and then it's pavement.
okay.
So they paved over the grass area, bro.
I don't know if there was grass ever there though, because if you go out and look, it's just pavement. On Monday when I went by, it looked like it was gravel.
Okay.
Today I went by and now it's paved.
I will say what they are proposing to do before you to pave it or to retroactively get approval for the paving is a better situation simply for fire access to the back. I would recommend you go through this application process to see where we end up. That may clarify any corrective action that
Okay.
may or may not need to happen.
And what about vehicles? The party bus is already parked out back.
If there's stuff already parked out back that it has not gotten approval for because it hasn't gotten a change of use, that's why they're here tonight, that would be a code enforcement issue. The correction, if something did need to be enforced because someone has moved in already and it's not approved, the corrective action really would be go and get planning board approval, which they are physically here to do. So I would still recommend that you go through the process tonight. If for some reason you don't approve it, you need to conditionally approve it, you need to continue it. There might be different decisions, but I would recommend we proceed with the application and see where we end up this evening. And then that may inform future actions or decisions the town has to consider.
Okay.
Just from a practical point.
Sure.
They're here, they've applied.
I get, yeah, I'm generally, I mean, I'm definitely not a fan of shooting first and asking questions later. But we'll hear this out. We'll factor those things in and see how it plays out. All right, okay.
And I do apologize to both of these. I was unaware that it had been paved because I was out there a couple weeks ago and it wasn't.
No, it wasn't on Monday when I drove by.
No, they were paving it today, and they had landscapers there putting down bark mulch along the front there and whatever, and I was like, okay.
And I feel like I've seen those party buses out there for a while now. Have they? Does anybody else know that? Like, I hadn't realized it until it popped in my head. Because I drive.
Just a question then. If it's 4 vehicles that you're limited to for light transportation, does that mean that the area in back, in addition to 4 vehicles for light transportation, can other vehicles be parked there? In other words, 4 buses and then maybe a couple cars, a tow truck or some, I don't know.
What I have shown on the site plan, as soon as I figure out how to switch it, it shows all the parking, the required parking and what I was suggesting for parking. We can get more than what we need, but I was only showing what was required. Plus a couple others. They had a couple
Does it look like they're like, what, 4 or so like glass trucks, I think? Or some sort of, smaller like service vehicles parked in the rear, and, some other sundry larger vehicles that, I don't know.
So one thing I want to ask is, and I'll ask Dee for this, and I know she's probably got it on our list of to-dos. We usually get the copy of the new zoning. We don't have it. I don't recall if some of these things are recently new or a year old new.
It's what we just voted on.
It's what yeah. Forgive me if I don't have it all in my head. It's my failure for today. But does anybody have a good recollection of exactly what that allowable use entailed regarding transportation business?
I believe it's 4.
It is limited to 4. So any approval, if you gave it tonight for this use, would be limited to the 4. They can still have other parking on site for
Such as employee vehicles or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. But if you want to ensure that that's the 4 transportation vehicles or what's the limit, just have that be one of the conditions. I mean, it's sort of redundant because it's in your zoning.
Sure.
But having it be a condition of approval is very easy to add in, so everybody's put on notice. And you can also amend that to say, and additional vehicles for storage purposes are not allowed. So that would mean like staff would be allowed to park there because you still have to allow customers and staff to be able to park on the site. There is
So like after hours or something,
Personal vehicles, non-business use vehicles, something along those lines.
honestly, the storage of vehicles generally covers that type of thing. So you're not having the owner store his RV there all winter, or it becomes a boat storage yard.
What about, so the original,
What about an additional business being there? Because there's it's called Advanced Glass. It's a glass contractor that's also there
That's one of his businesses.
with work vehicles, trucks.
As long as that use has been approved for that site, they're allowed to have them. But the transportation use would be limited to the 4 transportation vehicles.
But this was approved for retail before this, and it was a pawn shop. So
I'm not sure about why the glass business vehicles are there.
so we're taking one singular business, splitting it into 2 business condos?
He has, Frank, the applicant, has, I think he said 3 or 4 businesses. He was going to run all of them out of there. It's just like office, basically the office portion of it.
So if he's got vehicles related to another business all from one structure, then how do we reconcile the fact that we've got limitations on each of those different types of uses and the accompanying vehicles?
They end up being, you have 2 uses on the site. They have to, all of the restrictions for both uses have to be there. The transportation use would be limited to 4 transportation vehicles. They can't have 6 buses. They can have 4.
So he can take a building, say he's running 6 businesses out of it.
Mhm.
One business has 4 glass trucks, one business has 4 transportation things. Suddenly we've got 24 vehicles out there.
Because you have parking
Yeah.
requirements, that controls that proliferation. You still have to have enough parking on site to accommodate all of the uses. This site has more than enough parking for that. But you don't want it to be parking 20 buses. There's not enough room for that.
No, and like I said, I'm thinking about 4 glass trucks or 6 or 2 or 1, whatever it might be, plus 4 party buses, plus he's got a pool business. And he runs out of there. He's got 3 pool vans, and suddenly we've got a proliferation of vehicles. Used car lot.
So it's only the approved uses that can be in there. And for that approval, they have to come to you. Unless it's retail to retail. If the pawn shop was becoming a clothing store, that doesn't trigger a change of use. That's retail to retail. This is one use to another use that has different requirements.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Well,
if he has 3 businesses, if another business comes in and wants to park more vehicles out there, they'd have to come back here.
Yep. It's a change of use to the site.
but if we go from one retail and we say now we're allowing office, but it's one individual who's running several different businesses and he's calling that location his office for party bus, glass business, XY.
So
Other-
that offices get a little bit into, I'll say, murky waters, because it depends on, is the office a accessory use to the main use? Like it would be feasible that the transportation company would want to have a small office space. So that's with the transportation use. A retail business may also have a small office space associated with it, but that's part of the retail use. If you're talking about an accountant that their entire space is an office, then the office use is not an accessory use to the business. It is the primary use. It has to accommodate those parking requirements.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Any other questions?
Well, when it said office transportation, I thought the office was going to be for the transportation until I Googled and whatnot. And this advanced glass, they're saying that it's their main location. And supposedly they have another one in Haverhill. And if this is their main location, if they're a glass contractor, what about supplies and all, that other stuff? And
I can't speak to whether, if they're using it just as an office base, I can't speak to if they're proposing storage. It doesn't appear that that's the case.
I didn't think the office was going to be for multiple business. I thought it was going to be for the buses.
Yeah, in my experience, right, pretty much every application I've done has been a business for this one use, and as you mentioned, the office maybe was related to the business, but this will be the first situation that I've experienced where there's the potential for one building, essentially a headquarters for a person that's involved in several different businesses. And I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around that and understand what that means for this property.
If
Is
I
it good?
If I could say something,
Sure.
That's pretty much what you have directly across the street. That Rockingham Village, they've got multiple businesses in there, and they're all run out of that one business.
You're talking about
It's the same. See the building down at the bottom, the long, narrow one, where the
Dealer sharp in the vape shop.
yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty similar to it, where you've got multiple companies in there. well, multiple companies, but they're different owners.
Yeah.
Where I believe what he's got in there under his control is it's all his businesses.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that that facility is 100%. I'm going to assume that it never came in front of the board that I recall.
I don't know how they got a used car place out of there when there's another used car place right down the street.
That could be a code enforcement question because we haven't seen that application. Not exactly. It seems like it's maybe a question for that department on that building, but specific to this one. All right. So Dan, if you want to keep continuing on it,
Yeah.
hopefully we can sort of circle back and address those questions in a formal manner.
Can somebody tell me how to change the picture?
Should be able to scroll down.
We need some 14-year-old kids here.
Yeah.
Or grandkids? I'm not getting anything.
Shot.
Was the space bar?
What's that?
Did you try the space bar?
Or just the arrow.
Yes, yeah, I just
Get out of there.
It's on the second page of the PDF. Should just be able to scroll down.
How do you get rid of that?
I think if you just click
Oh, you
away
just
from
click
it over
away
here.
from
No, it's not.
See the arrow? Keep going to your right. That arrow. Right
This guy?
there. Yep, try that.
All right. How about we just do that, Pat? All right.
There you go.
Scroll down.
Oh, are you just tapping on it
Well, I had to get it out of the
where it was locked in?
presentation screen and into
Okay.
this, and now you're
That's
going to be able to
fine.
scroll down as needed. Is that acceptable?
Oh, yeah,
Are we
that's
seeing enough?
fine.
You can also zoom in on the top bar.
Yeah, if you need to zoom in.
That's fine. I don't think that's a problem. Thank you. So, you can see the cursor up there too. So what we've got here, wait a minute, I forget where I left off. Okay. So what we've got here, this is the proposed conditions. And basically what I did is I was showing the required parking based on the usage. And I've numbered them all on here. But the one thing I was doing, the original plan that was approved showed a 20-foot strip coming from, if you can see the cursor, right in here, it came 20 feet back, 20 foot wide all the way to the back. Right there, there's a 30-inch maple tree, or I think it's a maple tree, which we would like to protect. I mean, there were other trees along the side going in, but at some point they were taken out. This one is, I think it's worth saving. So what I did is I just shift the drive a little to the left, right in here. The drive would come in here and then swing around to go to the back. That would,
Is that an existing curb cut there?
I did see one tree out there.
the big one?
I think so, yeah.
That's the one we're trying to get.
Closer to the house.
Yes, that's why I was shifting the drive. There is a curb cut there. There is a driveway in there now.
It's an existing curb cut.
And what I'm proposing to do is just add to make it 20 feet, move it over to the left a little bit.
Where will the vehicles be parked for the transportation business? In the back or in the front?
Back. They are right back in here. And I made those parking spaces, I think 13 feet wide to give them more maneuverability in there. I mean, it's probably overkill, but.
Those two designated B3 and B4 would be the larger,
You're right.
and then B1 and B2 would be the smaller?
Small one.
Okay.
So, and we can shift if necessary, we can make them wider. But I don't think, I think 13 feet wide would be plenty. So there are a couple issues that I think Dee had pointed out. First of all, there's an existing septic system in the back, right in this area. If you can see the cursor, is where the septic system is. That septic system's been there for at least since 2007. I went back to the 2007 plan that Dee gave you a copy of, and it showed the septic system there. And it's been functioning properly since then. I called the DES and tried to get a copy of the plan to present. They don't have any record of it. We got on the website and we did find they have a one-stop website where you can look up information. I pulled up the septic design. It was 2007. There was a septic design approved. But what I was told up at the state, it was probably, the septic system was already there. So it was probably a contingency plan. And if it's not built within 4 years, they throw all the plans away. So they don't have anything on record. The only thing is the only thing that shows that something was approved there. It just gives you who designed it, when it was approved, and that's about it.
Is that a concern?
Yes and no. The fact that they were able to get something approved in 2007, even as a contingency plan, indicates there is the possibility of putting a septic on the site. I mean, you certainly are within your right to require a renewed contingency plan for
Yeah.
if they were to have the septic system fail. I mean, the proposed use that they have for office and transportation is going to be less volume than a retail use, even though retail use is pretty low volume for septic. But
Although-
if they have no record of it, it's a very old system.
Yeah. Although, if you are I guess this would be hard to, I'm not sure where septic, I was going to say, if you're washing your vehicles,
That's what I was gonna bring up. At some point, you gotta wash the vehicle somewhere, right? And you gotta clean them out. Where would the washing and the cleaning out of the vehicles and all of that go?
That I don't know.
Because that's a legitimate question if you're
Yeah.
dealing with the septic system.
I don't know if they would bring it somewhere to have that done. I can't answer that.
is there any chance that there isn't a septic system there, even though one was approved and they literally just don't have any running water in this business?
Oh, they do. They have the
You gotta have a
the
toilet,
pawn
I would
shop
think,
there.
right?
Yeah.
I would think, but
Yeah.
I'm just, it's kind of,
In the
I mean, I will say you could have what's effectively a cesspool still functioning.
well,
I'm not
that's,
saying the site has
that's
that.
in Washington DC, but that's,
I will say the washing, that's a really good condition of approval as a prohibition of no washing on site. Because even if they have a septic system, washing on site is a very easy way to get contaminants into your groundwater because it won't have the facilities to deal with the stormwater runoff or the runoff from the washing, depending on whatever it is they're using. So
'Cause they need a-
prohibiting washing on the site is a really good idea.
Yeah, because to wash on the site, they need a filtration system
Yes.
and everything else.
It's a whole other ballgame.
and you
for-
can't dump it into a septic system.
No.
Exactly.
no, I know,
mean,
it just
kill
kind
them.
of,
They need a whole nother filtration system. It'll all have to be filtered out.
But it would kill the system. You'd overload the system. So,
yeah, no, it almost was an accessory thought, right? That,
Mhm.
you know, I was thinking about water in general, and then it kind of popped in my head that you got to wash the vehicles. But, and I think Bill was on the same.
By the way,
Wavelength.
the septic system, there would be no problem getting the septic system. The soils out there are Windsor, which is a loamy sand. That's what's mapped by the NRCS. And they call out the water, I think, at 80 inches, which is pretty deep. Again, that's very generalized. You never find exactly what they say. So, but it's a good series. And it makes sense because you have the little river in the back. And, that was probably all built out from runoff over the years. So it makes sense that it would be good sandy soil.
So I'll ask this out loud, and Jen maybe may have the input on this. For the layman's, in a layman's terms, we're taking an existing approved site plan with some minor adjustments and a change of use. The minor adjustments being we're effectively allowing for the 20-foot fire lane, and then he's designating some changes in the parking, and then a change of use for the actual structure. I guess I go back to my original question about what other businesses will be ran out of this one structure, and, trying to sort of effectively avoid the scenario that exists in the front of the other side of Garden Road, which is maybe it does meet code, maybe it doesn't. I don't know that question.
So you can always put a condition on there that no additional businesses or changes of use can occur without planning board approval. You already have that authority. It would be redundant to put it in a condition, but it also might make it at people's forefront that you can't pull in another use onto this site without getting planning board approval. It might be a reminder. You already have the authority to require a change of use for new businesses going in. If it's just retail to retail, that's outside of your authority. If it's change of occupancy, that's outside of your authority. If it's the same use. If it's adding, I'm going to say a dog groomer also to this site, or adding another business, that's a change of use. That they would have to come back to talk to you about.
Even if it was the same type of business, or in that sense that we allowed for office and no longer retail, but office. And he said, well, I'm going to use this as my office for my glass business and use this for my office as my vehicle transportation business.
So if it's just being used as an office use, like that's the pure use, it's not an accessory use, it doesn't matter what the office is. But if it's an office that's also going to require the storage of material on site, that is not just an office use.
Okay. So in effect, if he's already got a glass business that has panes of glass and trucks to service the glass, it's a code enforcement issue.
Potentially.
And
I don't know the full situation, so I don't want to.
Sure. No, I'm just, in theory. And then if we were to approve the transportation business, it still wouldn't allow that there could also be this glass company that has its glass trucks there and glass inventory.
So they are applying for a transportation company and an office use. That's what they're applying for.
Okay. Is this helpful for the board? I feel like I'm asking more questions than I usually do.
It is helpful because I'm just going back to what I originally thought. I thought the office was going to be for the transportation. I didn't realize the office was going to be for multiple businesses.
So the office is a office use, and then there is a separate use of transportation facility. The office may be used for administering the transportation business, but also administering a glass business, or he may have his own, accounting business where he just does the accounting on the site. That's still an office use. It can't be an office use if the window business is also storing material outside. That's a different use. That is not purely office.
Is the window business storing stuff on site?
To be honest with you, I don't know. As far as I know, they're not. But I wouldn't say that for sure.
They do have trucks over there.
Having trucks associated with the office parked at the office would fit with an office use.
Work trucks, though? Service vans?
I suppose possibly, because they gotta
Yeah.
go in and out of the office. It's
Bigger than pickups, let's say.
Yeah, like vans that take panes of glass
yeah, they have
and
the
go to your
glass on the
house.
side of they have the glass on the side of the truck.
Yeah, like where you see a Timberland glass. Because now we're talking about two different businesses, two different things going on.
Yeah, because if they all of a sudden turn it into storing glass out there, you know, where are they gonna put that? That's a whole different, to me, it's a whole different
So-
thing.
Yeah, I think what Jen's saying is that you can't. I mean, that's not an office use.
All right, so there's an office an office use, and there's going to be up to 4 transportation vehicles there, in addition to the fact that there's existing work-related vehicles associated with another business associated with the building, right?
Right.
So you're going to have 4 plus whatever office vehicles are going to there.
Mhm.
And as long as the parking accommodates that for the 4 transportation ones, then, we're
Right.
This is,
As long
all
as there's
set.
sufficient parking for all of the
Right.
business uses that are proposed, and in this case, the transportation requires or maximizes the 4 bus uses, then they're meeting the regulations.
Okay. And if there's any type of storage, then that's an additional proposed use.
Okay.
That is not what has been proposed. You
Okay.
need more
Yeah.
information and approval for them to be able to
We-
legally do that with an approval.
we do have language around accessory vehicles or business condition vehicle, whatever I'm trying to say, but vehicles that are for the business service type trucks. We have language in our zoning for that. There is some limitations. So I would differentiate parking for customers or staff, personal vehicles with a service van that is associated with the work. And we sort of used to think about that with someone who is a electrician or a plumber, right? They're going to have that work vehicle associated with it. Tim, you got any thoughts? You've seen it all. So
Yeah, well, it has a note on the bottom left-hand corner, entitled "Parking Requirements." Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I assume there's 1 space per 250 square feet of gross floor area is correct, and it sounds reasonable.
It is.
And he has the calculation. The only thing I see missing is employee parking.
In the office spaces, they don't have anything in it for employee. It just goes by the square footage. The retail, on the other hand, does have it with employees and the square footage.
I would think that we'd have parking related, employee designated parking for office space. No.
No, I mean, you do have a parking requirement for office space, but it doesn't differentiate
Okay.
employees, it just bases it off of the gross floor area.
I guess there's been cases where we've specifically called that out. But if it's for this size business, I don't think that's a,
Well, they got total parking
deal.
spaces provided of 17 spaces.
Yeah.
With 1 handicap space. And out of that, they got bus parkings, 4 of them. Truck parking for 2 spaces is optional, right?
Dan, while we're sort of contemplating that, is there anything else to share? Or are we kind of at the end of what you would present?
No, there are a couple other issues.
Okay.
Those were the easy ones. There are 2 waiver requests, and I think, let me see if I can. Oh, all right. One is for the, okay. Oh, they don't have all the sheets here.
You're missing the waiver information?
No, I'm missing, there were a couple of aerial photos that I had marked up, or photos that I took out there, showing the lighting and showing the existing landscaping, which I wanted to present. Well, on the landscaping, there's supposed to be a landscape buffer of 10 feet, 12 feet, I think. And in the front, the pavement goes right up to the right-of-way. So I don't know who did it, but there are 3 fruit trees that are equally spaced in the front, which provide some kind of shading and screening in the front. We don't really have much opportunity to do anything else there. In the back, along the left-hand side, which is along the Firestone property, it's all wooded between the pavement and the property line. So that's pretty well screened all along the back. And then when you get out to the front on the left-hand side, it's all grass. So that's,
You can't see the back at all. I
no.
mean, you have to literally go up and around to
Right.
see what's behind the
Right.
building, so.
And in the back of it, it's pretty densely wooded and it falls off down towards it's not the Little River, but it's a tributary or something that runs into it. It's all associated with the Little River. And that drops significantly down and it's all heavily wooded. So there's nothing in the back that would be affected by anything. What the waiver I requested is to allow what we have for landscaping, what's out there now. Because there, as you can see, there isn't a lot of room to do anything.
I only saw 2 trees in the front. I didn't see 3.
If you look,
We had such an emphasis on landscaping as a,
Yeah, that's kind of a
yeah,
thing we're going for 125.
so right on the bottom of the sheet up there where the cursor is, there are 3,
Yeah, I didn't, I just drove by there. I only saw 2.
there were 3.
Or where the
when they
third
did
one
this.
is.
When they did the survey, there were 3. I
Yeah.
hope they're still there.
Yeah.
well, I mean, the picture, the Google picture has 3, but I wonder if one's gone.
Again, a
It's-
couple weeks ago it was there.
It's,
I
it's,
can't say any more than that.
yeah, it looks about, what, 5 or 6 feet of landscaping there?
That's all within the right of way, the town's right of way. Because right where the pavement is, that's where the right of way of the street
Oh,
is.
so did the state put those trees in?
It's not a state highway.
It's a town road.
Oh,
That's not 125. 125 is
yeah,
on the other
no,
side.
I know, but
Okay.
you kind of think of it, you know.
Is the pavement coming right up to the right of way what was approved on the previous plan?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing's changed in the front there.
Tom, if you look at the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
This is,
So
I don't know if it was the last approved one, but
okay,
it
so,
looks like it was approved in
2007?
February '04.
04?
so what's there is what was approved at a prior time, Tim?
Yeah.
Looks like the chair was not very diligent about this plan.
Things
Come on, Tim, I'm just having a little fun.
things change.
It is kind of cool, though, to see 19 years ago that your signature was on here. It's a testament to how much
Yeah.
you've done for the board, so thank you. All right, so,
So that was the waiver request for the landscaping. The other one I wanted to show you was the lighting that's out there.
can I just jump in, Dan? Would it be
Sure.
safe to say that not allowing this waiver, not approving this waiver would essentially require him to chop up some pavement and add some landscaping?
Effectively, yes.
That would pretty much destroy the whole site. If you came back and took 12 feet out of the front of that thing, your parking in the front is gone.
Could we require additional commitment to what is there?
I will say on this site, there's pretty limited
Yeah.
opportunity, and you don't want to add, except for maybe some very low growth landscaping, anything to the curb cut by the driveway, because then you're going to interfere with sight lines for the vehicles. And
Sure.
About the only thing I would say is, let's find out if there's 2 trees there or 3 trees. And if there's only 2, plant the 3rd.
Well, again, that's in the right of way.
Yeah,
The town's
they
right of
wouldn't
way.
have the authority to be able to do it.
Yeah.
without town approval.
Gotta try.
Can't imagine the town putting trees in there, though.
It was probably one of the previous owners. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to keep that big maple tree that's out there. I mean, that's a beautiful, mature tree. And it's probably the only one left in there.
Now, the picture I'm looking at also has some additional trees. Were those all taken out?
That I haven't seen them at all.
Okay.
Those were, I think those were taken out quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't know why they left that one, but I was kind of glad they did.
I'm just looking at, whenever Google came through and did their, whatever it's called.
But I think they would have had to come out anyways because the road, the drive that was going into the back, that would have wiped them out. It might have been after, yeah, I shouldn't say. I have no idea when that was.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to talk about the second waiver, that'd be great.
The next one was the lights. What's out there is in the front, by the front door going into the building, there's a small light that comes down that's just to light up the entryway. In the back, they're mounted on the roof. There are two lights shining out to the parking in the back. But as I was saying, that's all wooded back there, so you don't get any spill over into the other properties around. And there are two signs that have fluorescent lights. I guess it's fluorescent, mounted to the building. They've been there for quite some time. And we can put cutoff fixtures if you deem it necessary, but I don't think in the back it's going to help because there's nothing there and it's trying to get the parking lot in the back. And in the front, you've got that little light. It's probably one little small bulb that's there. If you want that removed and replaced with some cutoff lighting, we can do that. But I don't think it's really going to do much. Again, across the street, there's pretty much, other than the back of that building, there's pretty much nothing there.
Would there be any compelling issue, either a hardship or a reason that you wouldn't want to update the lights to be compliant?
Well, I think the lights are, except for that one. I think the regulations say something about the lighting in the back. I mean, if it's something about the distance to the property line or to the, I forget how it's worded. But when I went through it the first time, I didn't think we needed a waiver. But Dee knows more about it than I do. So she had recommended that that I would have to request a waiver for it.
Yeah, it's based on the light spillage,
Yeah.
property line. That's the reason for the full cutoff.
In the back, there's.
You mean for ensuring that compliance is there? Yeah. So,
It's honestly good for wildlife as well.
I'm sorry?
It's also good for wildlife. It's keeping the light focused on where you need it lit.
Sure.
Not on other
And
places.
at this point in time, we don't have a real indication of the true impact of the way the current lighting is, right?
Correct.
Based on the current site plan.
You don't have what?
A full understanding of exactly how what the lighting is, how it's impacting the surrounding areas. We just know that it may or may not, that it does not have cutoff fixtures.
Can I show you? I do have the pictures. Can I bring these up to you?
Sure. Let the court show that we are receiving some new documents.
That's the landscape, and this is the lighting. And I think, oh, they're on the
You don't have that online, right? You can share it on the screen.
I had emailed it over, but I don't know where it would be on this computer, if it is on the computer.
Are they gonna do anything with that big sign out front?
That's
Are
the
they
next,
Are they gonna update that, or?
that's the next issue.
Oh,
I was gonna,
that's kind of hideous, that
Yeah.
sign.
well, it was kind of an expensive sign from what I understand. Really expensive.
Well, is it even in compliance?
No,
Who knows?
Which sign are you talking about?
the big sign to the
Lord?
left of
There's a
the,
big sign out front.
Is it on the building, the one on the building?
No, it's freestanding, parallel with the road.
Oh, this right here?
Yeah. Now it's got like letters on it.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's probably where the tree was.
Oh, yeah, the tree. That's exactly where the tree is. It's blocking the sign.
Ah. No, I don't know. I'm just saying that.
And does that
Just
show
being
where the sign is too?
sarcastic.
They're going to change what the sign says, or is it going to be sort
What
of
is that?
pawn shop?
oh no, I would hope that they're gonna change it to whatever business they
Well,
have.
I mean, it's not too big. Because, I mean,
So
No,
the
this is the
sign
sign.
that we're speaking about
This
is
isn't-
actually not on the property owner's
It's at the
property.
corner. It's at the
It's on
corner.
That's the issue.
It's on the
It's
neighbor's
sign, so it's
property.
if you look
So
at
it
the,
does need to move. It is not in compliance.
I think it's right there.
What, Firestone? It's on their
Yeah.
property?
Yes,
so that's not
Oh,
even,
So
By
for
about-
a variety of
Wasn't
reasons,
on the
it
original
needs
approval
to.
either.
oh.
it's about 11
Going.
inches
that's
onto
a
the
fairly
property.
new sign. Because,
I can't imagine how someone could do that.
Did you hear what Jen just said? It's on,
Yeah.
it's on Firestone's property. It's
Okay.
not on theirs.
So that's not even negotiable.
No,
How long has it been on Firestone's property?
not long enough to say you can keep it. We tried to find out. I was looking through the aerial photo, the Google's photos, going back in time, and I couldn't tell when. But I don't think it was that long ago.
That's the sign right there. That's probably where that other tree is. I can't see the sign.
you can see,
This sign right
So on the plan, it is right here.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Good to know.
That's not cut off lighting.
No, the ones in the back?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah,
All
I
right.
did see those.
And
How are you looking to address the sign? I think we
they're gonna
know.
have to move it. They're gonna have to. Yeah. I looked at the zoning. The zoning says that you can't have any signs off-site.
Sure.
It's about 11 inches onto the property. One of the things I was gonna request, which I'm not sure that, in order to do it, they'd have to get an easement from the abutter and a variance from the town.
Yeah.
And I don't see that happening. But that was what I was gonna recommend.
Did you want to propose a nicer looking sign? I mean, did you want to propose a new location for that sign if it could in theory be relocated?
Yeah, we can mark something up and show where it'd be.
So I just bring this up as a suggestion.
What's
You
that?
could maybe do a small lot line adjustment if the neighbors would
Yeah.
be amenable to that.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking of an easement.
Just so it's a little cleaner. That may be a little bit of an easier
Yeah.
bar.
Is that the only issue with that sign besides that it wasn't on the original site plan? It was added and it was added on the abutter's property. Is there
It's mainly that it's on the abutter's property. That's the issue.
to bring it into compliance with our site sign zoning and requirements? If it was on their property, would it have been allowed?
Yeah.
To have been there?
So is the sign on this
Yeah,
plan?
it's on the bottom left corner of the
No,
property.
she's looking at the old plan from
Oh,
2003.
if you look at the new plan, the proposal.
Sounds like Yeah, no, it was not on the original plan, so it was added without,
Without any
Approval
approval,
or-
just
right.
added?
that's awesome. I don't like shooting first and asking questions.
Now, from what I've understand, and I might be wrong, is that they got a permit to put that, whoever put it in had a permit to do it.
Okay.
But I don't know, and they just ended up putting it in the wrong place.
Okay.
There's also a gas line that runs in that area, and that might have had something to do with it. I can only guess. But anyway, no matter how it got there, it's on the wrong property.
So Jen, or anybody for that matter, have any concerns about the existing lighting? I mean, there seem to be some spotlights sort of shining out. Probably not real helpful to surrounding
The main
wildlife.
thing that would bring it into compliance is really having them be full cutoff. It
Okay.
is also best practice, and it's also stated in your zoning as one of your lighting goals for light spillage, for natural resource safety.
I think under the zoning, I shouldn't say zoning, whatever the regulation is for lighting,
Mhm.
doesn't it talk about having spotlights shining where I don't know if I forget how it was worded, but it made me think that those lights in the back would comply as they are. But I think it's something under the, I don't know if it's zoning or, it's under the code,
It might be under the site plan regulations.
yeah.
All right.
But the full cutoff is really the gold standard.
Yeah, but I don't think I think when they were talking about like parking lots or some type of lighting where it's lighting a vast area, that you didn't need a cutoff. But,
You can still have them be shielded so that they're not spilling, though.
yeah, but it's not really going anywhere. That's, it's, you can put shields on it, but it's just gonna stop it, a little ways out.
Without a detailed lighting plan, I can't tell you the extent that it
Yeah.
goes to, which is, I hear what you're
So,
saying.
so
but-
I'll give you two options. If you want to provide a detailed lighting plan, we can discuss the waiver again. Or to continue the meeting and moving forward, we can discuss the waivers. Or like I said, if you want to provide a detailed lighting plan, we could discuss the waiver at a different time. Or otherwise, we're going to move to the waivers in a moment. And then, but if there's anything else that needs to be addressed or discussed, please feel free before we look at the waivers. If the board has any other questions, jump in. Jen, if you have any input, please jump in.
Yeah, just procedurally, you need to accept the application as complete or not. I do think it is a
Forgot
complete
about that.
application.
You do believe it's,
I do, because of the waivers being submitted.
forgot about that. A little rusty.
And then when you get to the waivers, if you want to give the waivers for the lighting or for the landscaping, we can go through that. But because they've submitted the waivers, the application is complete, in my opinion.
Okay. Let's get to that. Thank you for reminding us. Would someone like to make a motion on the application's completeness?
There's a motion on the top of page 2 in the staff report.
All right. I move to accept the application for an amended site plan that proposes a change of use for retail to office/transportation facility, small, for the property located at 27 Garden Road, tax map 26, lot 53, and as noted in the legal notice, PB 23-03 as complete.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bill seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 5-0-0. No, Richard Anthony voting. All right. Okay, so thank you for reminding us of that. And waiver-wise, does the board have any other questions regarding the waivers? Any input?
So I would do these as separate motions.
Yes.
I'd almost like to continue this and if the board could maybe go on a site walk before the next public hearing. Because it seems like we kind of know what it looks like, but we kind of don't. And then maybe you could also provide more information about the other businesses going in.
Yeah, those are important things. It stands to say that it's possible that tonight we could essentially get to a conditional approval and vote no. Mostly because we may feel that there's some incomplete information here, and that goes for the waivers too. So it may be, and thank you, Lori, it may be a good recommendation for us to say that with additional information, the board may feel more comfortable. We certainly don't want to be a hindrance. We just want to ensure that the proper things are taken care of, and the information is appropriate. That would be a public meeting, correct?
So if you want to do a site walk, which
Yeah.
you're by exception jurisdiction, you're in the 65-day clock, so you don't need the applicant's approval to continue it or to have a site walk. You need to have it. You can announce it tonight as a date certain when you would have the site walk. It is a public meeting. The public can come, but no decisions get made there. So you could come up with that date and time. I would also recommend that we provide a list of the additional information you are looking for so the applicant knows what information to provide before you have a continued hearing. So
Okay.
it's clear for everyone.
And if we could, in theory, then not vote on the waivers this evening and just say those waivers will be considered upon the continued meeting?
Yep.
Right.
You don't have to deal with the waivers tonight if there's outstanding information.
Okay.
Well, I just think that way they will have a better understanding of what we're actually looking at. I'm not trying to hold it up or
No, I
anything,
know.
but
Right.
just to kind of give us a clear picture.
Yeah, we've done site walks before. We added it to the agenda for prior meeting. We just showed up a little early and then
Yeah,
got
we
ourselves
usually
over
have
here.
it before the meeting.
And I think in reality, right, we've done it on 2 occasions. In this case, I think it would be quicker than those other 2 instances and closer in proximity. So, I mean, in theory, we would do a 6 o'clock, site walk, and then a 6:30.
I always prefer to do it at 5:30 because that gives you time to get here. If the site walk takes 20 minutes, then you're busting to get over here.
Yeah.
Well, do we have to start at 6:30 here?
If you
It's posted time, unless you'd have to change that time.
Good point, sir. Are you the chair or something?
So they tell me.
Okay.
So if you want to have a site walk, you need to make a motion to have a site walk on whatever date gets determined. If it would be on the 17th of May at 5:30.
That's our next application meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
Do any other members feel that this is appropriate and agree?
If everyone's not ready, then I agree. That's what you do, right? Because you want to make the best decision.
I think it makes sense to take a look at it, just have a sense of, there's paving on the side now.
Sure.
It's not on the map. There's
Dan, you okay with
2
that?
trees
I mean,
as opposed
we
to
can
3.
do that, but I just want to, just
Yeah,
Do we have a lot to go over at our next meeting? Because I was thinking at the next one, if you did it, because we're just looking at quick waivers here probably, right? After we.
Well,
do the
you'd
site
also
walk.
have to go through any approval
Yep.
or denial that you may get to. To my knowledge, there are no other cases that have come in, but the deadline hasn't hit yet.
yeah,
It's later this week.
for the February, for the
Yeah.
5/17 or 5.
Is it
6,
on-
7,
are you on once a month now?
Well, we have 2 meetings a month. The first and third Wednesday. The first Wednesday is a workshop meeting where we just work on zoning and other projects.
Okay.
We have opened that up for applications, but not typically when we have some pretty noteworthy workshop activities. So,
So we couldn't do it on that one?
I mean, that really is up to the board. You don't have
Yeah.
any explicit reason you can't, but it's the board's preference. And if you want to really preserve that for work, and you do have a lot of things that are
We-
being talked
We do.
about.
We
We
do.
have a lot
We
right
do,
now.
and yeah, if we were sort of in between things, I would say, yeah, let's work this. But let's also, I'm more comfortable with the 17th, right? We're 5/17,
5/17.
and is the board okay with that?
Yes.
And then let's discuss what we would, some clarification that we'd like, so we can send Dan with that information.
So before you get to that, though,
Sure.
I would recommend you do a motion to have a site walk on May 17th at, I think 5:30 was the time.
Yeah.
Just so it can get posted.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for the board to go on a site walk at 5:17 at 5:30 at 27 Garden Road.
Have a second?
Second it.
Richard seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Richard seconded. Sorry. Any discussion on the motion? We all voted no. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Sorry. Okay, and then we'd like clarification on, I think we want to see the landscaping, understand what's out front. We want to view the sign and the location thereof and discuss what options there are for you. We'd like to look at the business and business types that exist. And what else? Anything else?
Do you want to, I mean, you've gotten photos of the lighting in your packets,
The
but if
lighting.
you want more detail on the lighting itself,
Yeah, I think we want to be able to view the lighting.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would recommend, just as far as the descriptions of the business, a written narrative as to the businesses, any vehicles that they may have associated with those businesses, the transportation one, you've provided information on, but number of employees that are expected or are currently part of the business.
And
Yeah, the company trucks.
yeah,
That's
yes.
what I meant by any
Yeah,
vehicles
sure.
associated
Right.
with the businesses.
And technically, if you're going to run an office that supports a business, you've got to register that under the business address, correct? In some capacity?
Yes, to get a commercial vehicle, you need to have a business license.
Yes, Tim.
I would, if the sign is on Firestone property by way of easement and it's being removed, I would also recommend, if the applicant's willing, and Firestone to write some kind of language that dissolves that easement. Otherwise, it's hanging around in perpetuity.
I don't think there is an easement.
Just said, "Dear Firestone, can we put a sign over here?" And they said yes. I mean, that could happen.
I think he just dug a hole and put it in.
Changes the oil to.
Not making light of it.
But when we did the research, we didn't see any easements.
Oh, okay.
So they dug a hole, put it in, not really knowing the property was.
It's not uncommon.
No, I know. Most people's fences in relation to their neighbors are probably not in the right spot.
Well, that makes it easier then.
Yeah.
To sort of parlay what Tim was saying, if there is any discussion with Firestone, please share that with us, and
Oh, absolutely.
we can understand some options for you. All right. With that in mind, we'll table any other additional discussion on the matter.
You need a motion to continue it
Yeah.
to the hearing to continue to May 17th at 6:30.
Okay. Someone want to make that motion?
I think you just determine it as the chair, that you're continuing it,
Yeah, you don't need a motion.
right?
No, you need a motion because you're continuing the public hearing.
We never do that.
We never did that.
Just, it's up to left it up to the chair.
Just going by Robert's rules in every other town, but it doesn't mean I'm 100% right. So
Well, I don't know.
Does it hurt to make a motion?
No.
Charlene makes the motion. We'll get some clarity on that just for future purposes. Is probably a good idea, but like, well, it can't hurt. Doesn't change what we're trying to do here. So would someone like to make a motion just in the interest of doing it properly, if that's the requirement?
Yep, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to May 17th
6:30 p.m.
at
6:30 p.m.
Or should we say 5:30?
I'll second it.
since it's
The site walk will be at 5:30.
5:30 and that's 6:30.
Public
Gotcha.
hearing will be at 6:30.
Chuck seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500 passes.
I have one question on the lighting. If we have to do a lighting plan, it'd probably be cheaper to just put the shields in.
I think
the
that was
back.
suggested of possibly an either or might be acceptable.
You're right, right. But to your point, we're talking about the lighting plan. We'll probably just put the shields in. Like I said, it'll probably be easier and cheaper to do. So that wouldn't be a problem. With the lot, with the sign being on the wrong lot, I'm going to make a suggestion to my client that they contact Firestone and see if there's a possibility of doing a lot line adjustment in there. And if not, then we'll put together something showing where the sign's going to go. And if that meets the regulations, then we should be all set with that.
Yeah, and if we didn't make if you didn't have enough, I'm assuming you wouldn't have enough progress to get that all done prior to us considering the application, then as long as it was explicit, we could probably condition it appropriately. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I think most of it, I mean, if the lighting, we can put a note on the plan saying that for the shields will be installed. On the sign, we can show it on the plan. That would be nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, as far as my part goes. But if that's everything, but you still need to take a look at the landscaping and take a look at the site and what's out there. So that still has to be continued.
Yes, we have continued it, so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your.
Thank you, Dan.
Good night, good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right. Jen, did you try to get back in the last meeting? Did you try to get in at a later time, or were you still?
I did try. I was on the road, to be honest. So
Yeah.
I have watched the meeting from the last session now.
Yeah. You saw me like stammering through, like, well, Jen's not here. I don't know what to do. That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, we needed you to rope us in.
Yeah. We were a little disorganized. I asked for homework, and frankly, the teacher didn't do any homework. Sorry, and I apologize for that. But what I'm going to do is kick it back to you. We can use some time here for you to kind of cover some of the things we were looking to cover that evening, if you want.
So I have a little framing that I want to do with you based on the meeting that we were at where the chamber came in and they talked with you, and then a little bit of your discussion at the last meeting about the roles of planning boards with master plans and implementation, because I think this might help you and maybe help you feel a little less overwhelmed. So master plans are the purview of the planning board. The planning board puts it together, has to get stakeholder input. You've done a lot of that. You've done that as part of your economic development survey. It's fantastic. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to. Implementation plans are just that. They are part of the master plan, but the planning board is not responsible for doing all of the implementation all by itself. In your plan, you do have a few other committees tagged just generally of who should participate, and that's great. With your economic development, I think you guys are going down a rabbit hole of feeling like you have to do everything all by yourselves. And that's honestly not the case. Coming up with the actions, identifying the parties that should be participating, absolutely planning board purview. But you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be the ones doing all of the implementing. So one of the items that I heard come up was the sewer connection to Haverhill as a discussion point. For economic development, ensuring that you have the appropriate infrastructure when having those discussions, it's a great action to have in there. But it doesn't have to be the planning board per se that is the one having the discussion on sewer explicitly. That's really more of a selectman topic. Doesn't mean you can't initiate it, doesn't mean you can't ask the questions and track it, but it is not really the planning board's authority, purview. You guys have a lot of other things to also be taking care of. What is in your purview, and I'm just going to use the sewer one as an example, that if suddenly there is a real possibility of having sewer up and down 125 connected to Haverhill, well, that may change the density that you can allow or the types of businesses you can or want to allow on 125. That's the connection. That's why having a planning board seat at the table for that topic makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't mean that you as the board members have to be the one pursuing that avenue. You should be involved and you should be acknowledgeable about all of the interconnected going on, but you don't have to be the ones doing all the doing.
So within that framework, we do have a water authority. What is it? What do we call it? Water department?
Yep.
We have a water officer. Is that what he's called?
The water department's actually the selectmen.
Yeah. And do we also have a water officer? Didn't the
Do we have
prior
a superintendent?
superintendent? Thank you. That's what I meant.
I guess it would probably be the town manager.
Because the prior town manager, there was a prior role included that, and it included some compensation for that too, if I recall correctly.
Right.
There's the
That's a-
current
that's a
town
story- that's a
manager.
story
Yep.
for
Yep.
another topic.
Does the current town manager have the same designation title-wise?
Yes.
So how, and this is a great example. All right, so we have a water superintendent, we believe. We know we have a water authority.
For the water department commissioner,
Department.
that's a selectman.
Okay. And so how do we then become involved or interact? And
So something like that is to acknowledge that water infrastructure in Plaistow has a direct availability or lack thereof has a direct impact on the economic development of the town, for better or worse. Actions the planning board can take is to ensure that if conversations or actions are taken by the town, select board, water commission, to alter the availability of water-related infrastructure or wastewater infrastructure, that the planning board is participating in those conversations and making any necessary regulatory amendments to keep up with those potential changes. And that might be that you need to do an annual review, or it's a memo once a year to the select board saying, has there been any change on this action? Is there any plan for sewer? Is the water going to change? Plaistow's had a lot of water infrastructure changes in the past couple of years. They're pretty significant, actually. Just making sure that your planning board functions are matching with your community vision of where you want to go and where the infrastructure is going, so that everybody's going towards the same goal, but working on their piece and still communicating. So sometimes it's framing the action in your implementation plan for the planning board, but there also might be an action for the select board on a very related topic.
So actually, a lot of these things could be covered by that type of mechanism, just, a timing mechanism like that. So, I mean, in addition to the question of sewer, sidewalks, calming plan, could all just be sort of like, functionary type things like annual memo to Board of Selectmen, And whereupon, there'll be like
So
prompt
that's a good
lightning.
point. We have had a lot of water changes. Has the planning board been involved in any capacity, or at least been provided up? I know there's been information flow. I just didn't know if it was formal. Tim, do you sort of when public water was coming our way? Laura, you were on the board prior to me as well.
Well, I mean, our master plan should link into the master plan that the water department is working on.
Yep.
So I don't know, have they produced that yet? I haven't seen it.
I don't think so.
So what would your recommendation be, Jan? Would we
So for
just
something
sort of
like
write up
that-
and say require some sort of water report?
So request that when the water report becomes available, that the planning board review the master plan and the existing regulations to ensure that there is synergy between the documents and make any amendments as necessary. And that might be something you're going to have to review on an annual basis, on a routine basis. A lot of the steps like that, you got to keep on the list and look at periodically. That's how you keep everybody at the table having the conversation. Just out of curiosity, I don't know this about Plaistow. Do you guys ever have an all boards meeting where you have representatives of multiple boards in town gather
No.
once a year?
Not all together.
I will say in many towns, that is a very effective mechanism to talk about really cross-cutting issues. So
I tried to talk to another board. They were like, no, I'm just kidding. No, I get it. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
So-
sense.
maybe that's a very topic specific one-time thing on infrastructure in town.
State of the state or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. You end up, a lot of towns will do it where it's one or two representatives from each of the town boards. It's just the chairs. So there's a lot of different ways to organize it. And then everybody talks about their 2 or 3 main things they are working on, concerned with that might.
Sounds like an excellent idea. Just so that everyone's on the same sheet of music, or at least understands the intention of what.
Sure. Yeah,
know.
we're all sort of got our feet dipped in the same pool. So yet we're not talking about who's doing what, and that's.
I mean, specifically, just for what's the word for it? Community interest or sense of what the community is. We've done a survey that the Rockingham Planning Commission, put forward, and that, is something that would inform other boards with respect to what, the intent of, let's say, a master plan is. If, let's say, somebody didn't like something with respect to businesses in the community, so if you were going to make a determination on waivers or something like that, you could use that to inform your decision. If it's a 4-part criteria for granting a waiver, one of which is if no one wants to see something or they see too much of, that's something another board could be able to take into account, right?
So I think based on some of the previous conversations for actions, looking at definitions of some of the uses in some of the districts, making sure they're described correctly. So a lot of those really planning board functions we can capture with your economic development implementation.
Okay.
There may be, and maybe this all boards concept is one of the broad action items where several things fall under it. To sort of pull that together. So you're pulling people in while not making the planning board the implementer of all things. Because I suspect you don't want to be the implementer of all things.
No,
It's
no,
not
we
very
don't.
efficient typically.
No, we don't have the capacity to, and frankly, some of them, like as you mentioned, are really under the purview of different areas or different pieces of our town government. But I get where you're coming from, because there's a sense that we have to take on full control of it, or else nobody will do anything. I guess we would have to be pretty specific about what we'd have to ask that they participate in what we're asking for. We'd have to get agreement, right?
what I have found, and it's just my own experience with working with towns on doing this, is that if the planning board is willing to put together the implementation plan, you already have the master plan. You've already done the survey. You've reached out to people, putting together the plan where you tag different departments, boards, committees, whoever, staff people in the economic development, or maybe it's the creation of a new committee as one of the things. Come up with what your implementation plan looks like based on your own knowledge for economic development, and then send it to the appropriate boards to say, this is what we've identified. We want to work with you. Give us your thoughts. So that you're not just going in saying, well, are you willing to work with us on this? Like, no, this is our plan. This jives with our master plan. We know it does.
Sure.
Will you buy into these? So it's a little bit of getting buy-in after the fact, because you're giving other boards something to react to because they're busy too. I'm sure the select board is very, very busy with a million other things.
Bill, have you had any discussion, and I apologize, I haven't watched the selectmen's meetings recently. Do you guys talk about this and
What,
the economic development plan? What the
we really haven't,
What's that?
we haven't.
Okay.
You know, just to know that it's been done, but we haven't gone in depth.
Yeah, I'm sure you and you guys got some pressing business, but yeah, but if it was more on a more formal basis, because frankly, there may be something that springs in your, hey, well, you know, hey, we're talking about this. Why don't we think about it from the purview of what the planning board's doing?
So why don't I finalize sort of the draft action implementation plan I've got started for you guys, but I wanted to have this conversation before I went too much farther down, so that at your next work session, you'll have that to react to. Won't be written in stone, but it'll be pretty fleshed out based on our conversations, your survey, your existing master plan, and then have that discussion. And if it's pretty solid, maybe that's when being like, okay, let's see if we can get on the select board agenda as a starting point, because they're sort of the main committee you're going to need buy-in from, but you'll also probably need buy-in from zoning and conservation and CIP and other committees in town that may have a small piece.
Great. One of the things I think we did leave off with was speaking of water and what our plan was there was, if I recall correctly, we talked about feedback from board members about the master plan and specific to the implementation plan and identifying the key things, right, that kind of tie into economic development, and figuring out if we either add an implementation plan section for economic development, or are all the things sort of captured within the other categories under natural resources, water resources, open space, and so on and so on. And do we just highlight those and say these are the things we're going to?
So what I have done is I have cross-referenced things if they're already in your implementation plan and they're related, but maybe not verbatim exactly the same.
Okay.
Tried to pull it back in to sort of capture what you already have, because it's good, but adding this new section that is an amendment to your master plan.
Beautiful. Did anybody have any additional information or feedback from our last discussion that is pertinent to this conversation?
Well, I mean, I guess, I think before we do an implementation for economic development, we should actually write an economic development chapter in the master plan.
So we have some narrative that Sarah had worked on for you, but the scope of the contract we have for you is to do a survey and then to pull out some of the economic development components. So I just want to be clear that I'm not writing a new economic development chapter for you.
No,
More
I
like a
understand that.
supplemental.
Yeah.
No, Victoria is.
So, well, I mean, my point being, it's something we need, something I think we all want to have. pretty soon, in another couple months, we'll be talking about budget. And we should put money in there to update the master plan for those, particularly economic development. There's maybe a few other small tweaks in there that could be made.
I do want to say economic development is a component of your housing opportunity grant. That's one of the reasons the scope was drafted the way it was to give you a little bit more insight that can be used for economic development, very specifically your build out analysis as part of it, and the housing preference survey that's a component under it. So, you want to put more money in your budget for your master plan, that's fine, but you already have some grant funds to get to a component of it.
Would you say that we could use it in a qualified fashion, that we could use some of that money to help pay for whatever resources to write that economic development chapter?
I think that several of the components of the housing chapter that we are writing will be big sections in any economic development chapter. And I think you've already done the outreach for the economic development, and if we're working on the implementation plan, you're 95% of the way there.
95% on the way of the economic development plan?
Of an economic development chapter. I mean, you'll have an implementation plan of initial thoughts. It won't be as beefy as a full chapter at this point, because we haven't done those housing components yet.
Okay. So is it realistic that if we were to at least have a skeleton of what it would look like, and then we could decide if, to Tim's point, if additional monies need to be allocated or planned for, what that would look like? Or
my general master plan recommendation is that towns are always putting in at least some funding to keep their master plan up to date, whether it's the economic development section or another section. So you're doing small chunks every year and not just doing big overhauls like you did in 2018.
Right.
I would recommend you at least put some funding in towards long range master planning for Plaistow in any budget, and having smaller funds tends to go over a little bit better rather than this boom or bust that some towns do.
What do you typically see as a reasonable amount? I'm just curious from other towns.
Probably on average 10,000 a year can at least keep things up to date. Some years you might need to do more, but 10,000 tends to be a good number. That way, some years if you want to do more chapters or you have more work, some years you might have some regulations that tie into the master plan you want to work on.
Yeah, I think we've been 5. I think we lowered it right after it was recently rewritten to 3. But we're now sort of circling back to it. So, all right, good to know. So when you say that we're 95% of there to actually write a chapter,
When I say that, I mean that the survey you did,
yeah,
the implementation component we are working on now,
okay,
and then components of the housing opportunity and planning grant that you've been awarded that we're like just starting will get you to 95% of an economic development chapter.
Okay.
And the rest, quite frankly, could probably just fall under our normal circuit writing contract because I don't think it would be a significant
Sure.
pull.
Well, I think that chapter is going to look like, something along the lines of, based on the information we got out of the survey, based on the information we've gotten from the housing grant, this is what we're going to implement to achieve this goal. Something along, like a rough.
I say 95% because you may end up tweaking some of the implementation plan and some of the vision and goals a little bit based on the housing information.
Okay.
That's more time than cost in writing and research.
All right. What did I do with my? Oh, here it is. All right. Did anybody have any specific information regarding the implementation plan or anything further on the master plan to add this evening? Anybody put some thought into any of these components?
I will say I have been using Tim's activity log too as a good resource for drafting a few things.
Okay.
It's giving me a little bit more insight.
All right. So, Jen, do you have? It sounds like you're putting the work in, and like I said, I know we're all straight out. Spring is usually the busiest time of the year for everything else. So
So we'll get it out in the next week or two, probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
So you'll have it in plenty of time to react to for your work session.
yeah, and I think this next workshop meeting is really important. I'm glad that we didn't include the application in it because I think we need to. We're kind of treading water, but we're not really sure what direction we're going just yet. So we're trying to reset that and continue moving forward. All right. Did you have a HOP grant Housing Academy?
The one update is I do need to. We discussed the flyer at the not last meeting, the meeting before. But I think you also had the flyer for the Housing Academy dates at your last meeting. We do have to have people registered by May 5th. Dee was really interested in participating. You can do up to 3. If you can't make it to all of them, that's fine. So, Richard, are you also?
Is this separate from the April 29th? There was an email that went out for zoning and planning.
That was
Oh, that's the
that was
planning and zoning
training.
conference.
Okay.
Yes, this is different.
Okay,
So
yeah, you could put me in for whatever you need to put me in for.
Okay, so just to refresh, the Housing Academy is the cooperative extension learning sessions. 3 are virtual, 2 are in person this spring to help people in the community that have gotten these housing grants learn how to discuss housing in their community, be better informed about housing, so that when we go to have discussions about housing in the community, you can serve for at least knowledgeable, I don't want to say advocates, but informed community liaisons about housing as an issue. Like, what do the terms mean? What's the status of housing? So having a staff member, if Dee's willing and able to, is fantastic because she'll be the one that will kind of be the front for a lot of people for housing development that may want to come and just ask questions. But having a board member or 2 would be great if you can participate in at least some of the sessions. It doesn't have to be all. And they start on May
5th?
They don't start on May 5th. I apologize. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
Oh, that's registered by, yeah.
You have to register. It's on May 17th is the first session. That's on Zoom. There's one on June 1st that is in Bedford. One on June 13th that is in Bedford. And then there's one more in May that I don't have the date on offhand, and one more in June that are both virtual. And all the materials are online. We can share all of the materials. The entire board, but they are good sessions. They are sort of meant to be continual, like they're building on each other, but if you miss one, the materials are all available online. And it just helps you to also, if you can go to the live sessions, connect with what other communities are doing to sort of learn as a group cohort. And I will be going to it, as will Victoria, through our roles in helping all of our communities.
So who's going to register people?
So I can send whoever they are. I can send you the email with the registration link.
Yeah, you can send it to me.
Okay, so
Chuck and
Chuck,
Richard,
Richard.
interested? Anyone else?
then having D go if that's.
Yep, perfect.
Don't look at me, I'm not going.
You don't want to go?
No,
Come on,
I'm babysitting my great-grandson now.
bring him along.
That does sound like more fun for what it's worth.
I had him all day today.
It sounds tiring.
7 months old.
Tiring.
He did take 2 naps, though, thank God.
Did
You nap
take
when
them at
they
the same
nap.
Time as well.
You nap when they nap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably sign up as well.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you.
And just one more thing on the housing stuff. We have started pulling some of Plaistow's data to be able to include. Victoria's actually started working on some of your assessing data that Dee was kind enough to get me the other day, so we can get really refined information about Plaistow's housing stock, which is not something that is specifically in the regional housing needs assessment, which is a much broader document. I have found it's really helpful for planning boards if I give a short, I want to say somewhat short presentation on the regional housing needs assessment. So that might be good to do at either your next work session or a month, so 2 work sessions from now, just to get everybody all on the same page before we start launching into things like build out and housing preference survey.
Sure. How long do you think that would be time-wise?
The presentation can be about 20 to 25 minutes. I've tried to plan for only 10 to 15 minutes of questions, but I inevitably get 30 minutes of questions because it's a lot of data and a lot of information. And I would say it could be shorter than 45 minutes, but that's probably not realistic.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm 2 work
Yeah, I
sessions.
agree. I think that, next workshop needs to be this, right? We need to be back on track with a plan, getting stuff done with a definitive timeline so that does not linger and fall off.
Is that the information that's on the RPC website that you got
so
from the?
yep, that's the study that was
'Cause
released.
I did kind of skim through that, and
That's great.
I think a lot of things that Plastow has already done, like some of the suggestions, like the ADUs, and we have that, and we have different overlays, and so would you make your presentation to what we already have?
No, so the presentation is basically an overview as to, I want to say, the statistics and data on housing in the state and where the projections are going. Affordable housing is a huge part of that, but housing for seniors, housing for disabled, how many children are in each household, so that has implications on schools and taxes, how big houses are becoming, the impervious surface, but also the things like, do you allow ADUs? Do you allow detached ADUs? Do you allow multifamily? What kind of development density are you willing or not willing to do? So it kind of covers the gamut. It's not doing the evaluation for what Plastow does or does not do. That comes as a later step of your housing opportunity grant. That's your regulatory audit, which we'll be doing this summer. This is more of just a framing of what's the status of housing in the region and in Plastow. Is really what the presentation is.
Excellent. Anything else?
I have one other thing on a totally different topic.
The floor is yours.
So this past fall, Plastow wrote a letter of support for a grant RPC put forth to DES to do stormwater regulations for different towns, because there's a number of towns that have not adopted the stormwater regulations they need to be in compliance with the MS4 permit. Plastow is not quite on that situation. There are some components of your regulations, though, that don't quite meet the MS4 permit requirements. Some towns haven't adopted anything. You're not in that boat. But some of the items you haven't adopted are sort of related to low impact design, some things about the threshold of what projects you may be requiring to meet different thresholds. And there's also some administrative things that I think that you could improve upon. So we have the grants got awarded. We have the funding to be able to assist Plastow with that. The one thing I do need, though, is a letter of commitment from the town that you are willing to work with RPC on that. There's no additional cost. It would pretty much be Victoria working with me to be able to help you with some of those administrative changes and walking you through what different things mean. I know you had started to work on some of the stormwater items that Tim had put forth this past year. So I think you've done a lot of the work. This would be a moderate zoning amendment to work on for this coming town meeting in March 2024. And some of it would be site plan subdivision regulation components.
Is that ultimately where we'll end up? So we will do the letter of commitment, then you will work with the board or just with staff?
Nope, we would work with the board.
And so we'll have some discussions during our meetings about, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Eventually it'll come down to our discussions about zoning amendments for the next town vote.
Yep. And I will say, you are not obligated to adopt any of them. You're not obligated to put it to town warrant.
Yeah.
The expectation is that you'll make a good faith effort. But there are certainly also within there a lot of decision points that we would bring forth, give recommendations, but you would have the ability to say yes or no.
If you just had to throw something at the wall, how many hours of work do you think this is throwing at us?
For the board?
Yeah.
It's probably an hour to an hour and a half at least 3 separate work session meetings over the course of the next 6 to 9 months. So, I mean, it's a lot of technical items, but you've gotten through a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's mainly logistical in your case, which is a little better than many towns. But
And
that would be my estimate.
And if you had to throw something at the wall, how many zoning amendments do you think we'll end up with?
In general of zoning amendments or for just for that topic?
For this topic, yeah.
It would be 1 zoning amendment. It would probably be amendments to your site plan and subdivision regulations, but that could be done in 1 hearing outside of town meeting.
I think we're looking to avoid having the ballot show up with 20 different zoning amendments like we have recently, or however many we had, right?
I think this topic would be 1.
Okay.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
I mean, the amendment that we didn't do last year, or this year, depending on how you say it, was a DES's recommendation for a model stormwater ordinance. And the proposal was replace what we got with this new model ordinance. And we didn't go ahead with that because we had a lot on our plate as it was. But when Sarah and now Jen brought up the fact there's money for RPCs to do that, it made sense to hold off. And
Sure.
even the model ordinances get changed from time to time, or updated references or whatever.
Yeah, I will say what you currently have, the shorthand is, it's not awful. It could use some tweaks though, put some bells and whistles on it.
Yeah, well, it was put together patchwork,
Mm-hmm.
to say the very least. And the one that's in there now was an attempt to combine the 5 or 6 different pieces that were scattered out throughout. But
I think some of the amendments we can help with will help streamline it a little bit too.
All right.
So
Sounds good. That letter would be written by town staff and then signed by the chair?
if you guys are willing to authorize for the chair to sign that letter of commitment.
Yeah. Does the board have any questions or concerns about that?
Nope.
It seems to make perfect sense, right? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
At your next work session, we could do a overview presentation, like very high level of like, these are sort of the suggestions, and probably like 15 or 20 minutes after the economic development discussion. I don't think it would be a huge
Sure.
topic, but just to
On the
keep
stormwater stuff?
Yeah, on the stormwater, just to keep everything
Okay.
kind of moving. You guys have a lot going on, I know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find the appropriate spacing so that we don't feel disgruntled about something, right? So,
well, I think one thing that would help if we do that is to finish up with ballot-ready language and put it on our list of zoning things or subdivision site plan things to do. So we're not scrambling in October, November to shove all these pieces in. If we have one ready to go.
so does it almost make sense to push that off a little bit so that we can lead up into the zone?
Or you can do the zoning language anytime during the year. You just have to, sometime in December, late November, early December, you have to post it to the warrant. And that's what kind of makes it official. I mean, we can talk
Yeah.
about zoning changes now, but
we can do the bulk of the work on it this spring and summer without it becoming overwhelming and really rushed at the end. So you've got a lot of time to think.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So again, Dee would assist with the letter?
I can actually draft the letter and then
Okay.
send it to you and Dee for your
Perfect.
signature, assuming that your board has consensus on that.
Perfect. All right, sounds great. Does the board want to address the rules of procedure topics that we did and
Oh, yeah,
for the
we should
changes that we made? We just
that.
reread those? I don't know if we have that written down anywhere. Maybe just in the minutes? Were the minutes appropriate? Charlene, are you confident that the minutes, that the spelling is all good in the minutes? I'm just kidding. What we made for changes to our rules of procedure were accurately covered, or were they estimations of what we were saying? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm not sure what you're asking.
So you, in the minutes, had discussed the rules of procedure changes,
Right.
and you had said, for example, 225-3 organizations, see committee and commission memberships to replace the word commissioner with representative. All right, so that's not the exact language, is I guess what I'm getting at. Does anybody have any notes on that? I know I have it here. I mean, there's no rush to it, right? We could do
No.
it.
Right, I didn't even think we drew on that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'll have to find my notes. I mean, if anybody has it, we can bang through it. Otherwise, we could just push up to the next meeting. Okay, we'll do that. So I'll make a note. Rules of procedure to be.
I think Tim made the suggestions on them. About the committee membership to the RPC, wasn't it?
Well, there were several different procedure things that we just tweaked.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the minutes, it was something about committee memberships. It was, one was about the RPC. At the last sentence, the term shall be 1 year. And then work with the chair on an annual review of the Plaistow zoning ordinance, site plan review, and subdivision regulations. That was 225-4. So there was a few changes, 225-3, and one change to 225-4. So we'll get that specified and reread.
Yeah.
And if we have to do them the first time because we don't have the original language from the other meeting, then we'll do that.
I can I'll go through, come up with the language that I think we agreed to, and send it to you, Tom.
That'd be great. And if I wrote some notes too, I didn't want to make everybody sit there. So if we read it once and it's not exactly what we're going to say the next time, we'll read it again and then read it again. All right. One thing I did want to bring up is the Greater Salem Chamber of Commerce was happy that we accepted their invitation to join, and I know they want to try to do some sort of ribbon cutting of some sort with us. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like. It's hard for me to think about an extra time commitment right now. So I do feel a little overwhelmed, but I guess we certainly want to take advantage of the things they do. We're all in agreement on what they did. So, does anybody want to be the point person for the Greater Salem Chamber of Commerce?
I
Did
think
you just raise your
Richard
hand,
wanted
Victor?
to do that. He wants to cut with the big scissors.
That's right.
A lot of speaking for Richard here. No. Well, if you just need someone to be have an email sent to, I'm fine.
Yeah, and I get the emails. I want to stay engaged with them.
Right.
And so, and they're trying to engage us. And I said, well, can we hold off until we vote in our new chair, vice chairs, members, and so on? They said, oh, yeah, great. And then we did that, but I haven't really reached back out since we did that meeting. So I do want to reach out to them. I do want to, try to accommodate some sort of ribbon cutting or event.
So we could start that conversation, I
Yeah,
suppose. You know, just some back and forth, and then maybe.
I'll touch base with you. I'll loop
Yeah.
you in, and we'll figure out. So, all right. Anything else? New business? Any additional communications? Jen?
Sure, I promise.
Poor Frank. Frank's like, please.
I know. So I just want you guys to know I will be here at your next 2 work sessions, so in May and June. But Victoria is going to be taking over for me, so at your next hearing meeting, so your second meeting in May, it will be her, but I will still be in touch, reachable. She and I will be talking. So if there are any questions about anything, you can still email me. Dee can still contact me. So I'm not stepping away forever. I'm just stepping back a little bit. So you'll see me for a little while, but then you're going to see a lot more of Victoria. And we're really excited to have her on board at RPC. So
Great. Should we be offended that you chose to get rid of us versus another town? Or should we be honored that you said, well, they're in good enough shape that I need to help these others?
I actually said this to Bill earlier this evening, that of all of the towns, you guys are definitely not towards the bottom. You're towards the top.
There you go.
Oh, wait a minute.
I just can't do planning board meetings in a week. So
I hear you. I know you're busy. No, that's great. Victoria, do you want to share anything? Okay, not to put you on the spot. You want to tell us about your background? Yes.
Yeah, so I have a master's in regional planning. My previous position, I was a planner in Beverly, Massachusetts. I staffed the Design Review Board, Historic District Commission, Open Space and Recreation, and also Community Preservation Committee. And I stepped in for Conservation Commission for a bit. So I'm a quick learner.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. I hope you don't have to travel too far when you come to these meetings, but
No, I live in Georgetown.
oh, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
It's not bad. And then how long were you the planner in Beverly?
A year.
Okay. And do you have any opening thoughts on our quaint little town?
I've always known this past I was here. I don't have very much experience driving through anything other.
we're going to go do a windshield tour.
There you go.
So if there are any good food recommendations for lunch or breakfast,
That's what the well, breakfast we got covered, but the economic development plan needs to address lunch and dinner. Okay.
all right, there. We'll do some reconnaissance on that part.
Yeah.
There's a solid selection of chains, though.
They're not in Plastow though, right?
No, that's April. That's
Yeah.
on the line.
Yeah. So people don't realize where the border is, but you can kind of see where the chain restaurants stop is where Plastow starts, and that's our water situation, right? So that, yeah, we could talk for a while, but no, this, I think it's personal preference, right? Casey's versus what are the other ones? Early Bird versus the one near the pot shop. Not that I've ever been in the pot shop, but
Oh, what, Jimmy K's?
Jimmy K's, that's the one.
That's Haverhill.
that is Haverhill. That's right.
Those are like breakfast places.
Yeah. Well, that's
Plastow Pizza Company for
Yeah,
lunch.
for lunch.
yeah. Plastow
Dano's.
Pizza isn't
Pizza is
bad.
good.
Dano's
That's
is solid.
Sushi guy, I like sushi.
Sushi time's good. I like their sushi.
It's hard to get good sushi around here.
Hey, sushi's as good as you'll get in Boston or anywhere else.
Yeah, I would say sushi time is good sushi, good mai tais, and then they have the Mexican place.
That might be Haverhill.
That might be Haverhill
Yeah,
too.
that is Haverhill.
Yeah. See, even I don't know.
I think we're gonna do some photos too of what's in Plastow versus not.
Yeah. No.
I appreciate the suggestions.
When we're a mix of small town and a busy cross-border, you know, people who want to come to, we got plenty of tire stores. We used to have plenty of used car places. We still have a good bit, right? Some pawn shops. A new pawn shop is actually going in.
A new one?
Yes, at the old Welcome to Moe's or whatever. That then became then it became, it was Moe's. Then it became whatever, the sandwich place,
Right.
Jersey Mike's.
Well, Jersey Mike's didn't
I
last.
thought that was going to be a Thai place.
No, I'm seeing banners for some cash for gold.
Oh.
So, yeah,
Oh.
lovely.
Yeah, we got a half dozen pawn shops, so it's another few more, I guess.
True. But that's what we're discussing, right? Is who wants to come here and why, and can we maybe get some other stuff in there? All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Well, welcome, Victoria. We look forward to working with you.
Just a quick question. A couple. I went back and looked at the email about the notice for document retention and such like that we got from the town's attorney. And I guess my question is that perhaps at some point, to reiterate what we talked about last week, that maybe we should probably invite said attorney in here to kind of discuss because it was pretty vague. It was, I looked at it, what is it that we're being told to retain? There's a reference that somebody's asking us to retain stuff, but it's just sort of, are we paralyzed in terms of what we can't talk about from this day forward? Backwards. That doesn't seem. Is there litigation? What does it cover?
There was nothing as of yet.
Okay.
So, Jen,
We just have to maintain and don't delete any correspondence that pertains.
Pertaining to what?
do you see boards bring in an
that's my
attorney
question.
just for some guidance in general? Is that kind of a common?
You certainly can. You have that right too.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay for it. For just general guidance, you guys are members of NHMA, so they're a really good resource for guidance. As far as like document retention, I will say many boards find it really more convenient if people have a dedicated email address. I know you guys don't have explicit Plaistow. Each member doesn't have a Plaistow
Right.
email address.
I've been asking for it for like 8 years. Yeah, I still don't have one.
I can understand that. If you have an email address or at least a folder in your personal email where you put all planning board documents, correspondence, it can make it a lot easier for when you do maybe have a 91A request regarding a case where someone is asking for emails, documents, discussions. It makes it a lot easier for you as just individual members to comply with that requirement. And if someone has requested all of your emails from 2022 related to planning board matters, it's a lot easier to then comply with that, give them all of the emails if they are already compartmentalized.
But also, I guess what I'm saying is that, using the logic that was put forward last meeting, is that anything that happened in the past, don't talk about it or whatever. Like for instance, if I wanted, we were told that post town voting, because we couldn't talk about some of the proposed amendments and things like that. We couldn't we'd be opening the public comment section of it. But since it's passed, now there's sort of a sense that, well, maybe there are certain things that ought not to be discussed publicly. And it's like, well, what's that entail? Everything. Everything we did prior to, that.
If it involves a specific application, especially an active application, you should not discuss active applications.
Yeah, it's not. But it's just like I said, if I were to say, just generically speaking, what was the genesis of, let's say, a particular proposed amendment? Like who proposed it? Where did it come from? What was the discussion around it? again, using the logic, I mean, you can't, it's like, well, what's not something that we can touch?
Yeah, instead of, it's,
I mean, you just can't say that there's retained documents for anything and everything, and and then act like you can't ask about anything because it might be the subject of some litigation. That doesn't seem fair to the board.
I will say if there is threat or actual litigation that is, it's either been threatened or there actually has been litigation filed. If the outcome of that, whatever that case is, may be impacted by a zoning amendment, that would be the reason for not.
I don't know.
well,
I don't know either.
without getting into any specifics, right?
That's what I'm saying. If
pull
it's
it back
something
to-
that's specific, then maybe
I
we
had
go
thought
into
you were gonna reach out to Clary and have them come in. I had thought that's what we kind of all wanted.
Well, that's what I'm going to say right now, because this meeting was intended for applications, so, not necessarily, I would target a workshop meeting if the board felt that we wanted to have an attorney present to ask questions about anything, right? Board related.
or just say that you can't, go into a closed session and just say that, oh, by the way, this particular amendment and everything around it is the target of perhaps some ongoing litigation. So,
So
you
you
know.
can go into a non-public session if threat of litigation, not just active litigation, but threat of litigation.
And it would make sense to have our attorney here just to have, okay, all right, good. Then I'll make that I'll make that request. Let's keep it reasonable and brief for a number of reasons, but if we put that into our workshop meeting, we're taking away potentially time for the economic development discussion, but I think it's pertinent. If you guys think it's reasonable and helpful and pertinent, then I can make that request.
or just, I mean, there's sort of a letter that was out there and then people, but nothing specific
It
is
is
said.
something specific. I'm not gonna say it right here in public, but there is
Well,
something.
that's
Well,
what
that's why it would
that's
be
my whole
good to have
point.
the attorney come in so we could, ask questions. And I
Okay.
kind of thought that's
Or
what,
at least be,
Yeah.
He's probably not even, Clary's probably may not even be aware of this, I don't know.
Yeah, I did not make a request for this meeting. Like I said, no, it was an
No, I know,
application meeting.
not
But
this
I did,
meeting,
I did
but-
also, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because then we've had a little bit of a discussion and we can request, we'll make the request and hopefully they can make.
because I mean, we can't, like, nothing's reviewable because of what?
With the topic at hand, I'd say let's just leave it at that.
All right.
We'll request an attorney to come and have any discussion. Also take advantage of the fact that we've got someone who understands the legal aspects of what we do in general. So any questions you want, right? Just kind of like we had the fire chief in and we got some good feedback from him. We can utilize that resource. All right. Anything else? Okay. With that, we'll close the meeting at 8:44 p.m. Thank you. All right.